Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Integrated Literature. In this episode, I will be talking about a short story titled Mr. Know-All. Mr. Know-All was published in 1924 by the English writer William Somerset Maugham. Now, the story is about a man named Max Kelada, who actually happens to know so much. And the title of the story is based on the character of the main character of the protagonist. So let's look at the point of view of the story. The story is written in the first person point of view, but an intimate observer. Now, there's a point of view, there's the observer. The point of view is either first, second, or third person. We all know that. While there are different observers, there are observers who know so much, there are observers who know a little, and then there are observers who know so much through some characters. Now, this story is written in the intimate observer first person point of view. Now, this intimate observer is not necessarily the main character. One sees characters through some characters. The reader sees about characters through the first person narrator. Now, the narrator is in the beginning, subjective and becomes less involved, like a camera. And then he becomes subjective again, and then later objective. So the narrator um, tends to conclude or judge other characters, and then later allows the reader to see for himself what or who a character is. The story is very close to an anecdote. The narrator observing and narrating all the happenings. That's why it's similar to an anecdote. The narrator observes and narrates the happenings. Now, uh, the setting of this story is actually what creates the characters. The setting creates the characters because it takes place on international waters, on an ocean, sailing from the west to the eastern part of the world. Now, um, the setting of this story is after the World War One, which has just ended, and it is difficult to get accommodation in the story. Now, this has made the narrator to share a cabin with someone. Now, it is important for us to know that the author himself, Mom, has actually served as a doctor during the World War One, but he later retired after the World War. So, the conflict of the story begins in this way: the narrator hates the main character for because of the main character's cultural differences. We see this in the first paragraph of the story. The narrator keeps repeating that notion of Kelada being an Orientalist. So the main character is someone who likes to boast of his super knowledge, not sensing that he is disliked by everybody. However, there's an irony. The narrator's negative description of the main character shows so many traits of a gentleman. The Max Calada is meticulous, is hygienic, and all sorts of good things that a gentleman should be or look or do. Now, the incident between the main character and a female's object, that's the pearl, uh, when there's a betting that her pearl uh, isn't the original. They bet and he loses. Now, this is where the conflict of the story begins and is solved because after Kalada bets that the pearl is actually not original, and the woman says that it's original, he loses the bet. However, the next morning, a letter is pushed under their cabin door, and the narrator realizes the value of who he hates in the beginning. He realizes that the letter apologized to Kalada and returns Kalada's betting money because the woman knows that Kalada is saying the truth about her pearl. So the entire conflict of the story and resolution centers around the pearl. And the story ends with the letter. That letter that is pushed under the door is actually the end of the story. Now, the pearl determines the theme, of course. Now, the heated argument about a pearl reveals the true character of the other characters. For instance, Mr. Ramsey is prejudiced. Mrs. Ramsey is insincere. Uh, Mr. Kalada appears to be a real gentleman by saving a marriage. The narrator himself becomes aware of judging people. So the argument about the pearl exposes their characters. This story does not develop a character, rather, it exposes characterization. It exposes the character of a character. So the incidents reveal the theme of the story. Other elements affect the theme, like the setting. The fact that the setting takes place in a boat or a ship and not in a country means that prejudice is something international. Even though the characters are far from their native societies, they are far from their homes, they still bring their prejudices and notions of stereotypes along. Um, the style of the story, when we look at it from the title, Mr. Know-All, somebody who thinks they know everything, is rather too straightforward. There's also symbolism. The cabin where Kalada and the narrator lodge represents the small living area and the small-mindedness that the narrator has when it comes to people of different background. So this brings us to the end of this short analysis of Mr. Know-All. Hopefully next week I will analyze another short story. I do hope that you enjoyed this analysis and you are able to pick something in this analysis of Mr. Know-All by William Somerset Maugham. I remain Mujtaba Sani Abubakar from the Department of English and Drama, Kaduna State University, Nigeria. Thank you. See you next time.